Good morning. I love that song, just singing about the goodness of God. His faithfulness is evident in this room. His goodness is running after us and our kids. Welcome to Bloom, one of my favorite days of the week. I'm Marla Livers, and this is a picture of my family right there. Oh, wait. That felt like it was yesterday, but we blinked, and there we are. The next picture is our current family. So it happens in a blink. That's my husband, Nate Livers. He is an OBGYN here in town, so he might look familiar to some of you. Shepherd is on the redhead on the far right, and he is a freshman at OBU Ouachita. He loves all things worship music, theater, history. He's a history major there. And then on the far left is Owen. He is a senior this year in high school, and he's our outdoor guy. He loves fishing and hunting and baseball. So can't believe he's a senior. And then Marley Grace is a sophomore in high school. We're finishing up volleyball season with her, and she is sugar and spice and everything nice. She is just a sweetheart. And then Nora, she is our second grader, and she keeps us on our toes. She is very fun and very tiring. Nate and I have been married for 24 years, and our story is one of love and loss and adoption, and you'll get to hear just some of our parenting adventures today. So you may be kind of wondering what qualifies me to come speak with you today. Well, don't worry. I got a very nice note. It's going to be on the screen so that you can see, but I got this note this summer. I really, really hate mom and dad. I hate y'all. So if you get a note like this, you are obviously doing something well in your parenting. So hold tight, I have the certificate. As we're learning with the Love and Discipline series is that our parenting is gonna look different than the way that the world parents. It's not gonna be quick and easy. And it also is probably gonna get some pushback from our kids. And you know what? That's okay. They're not gonna like it, but that's okay. Hang tight. You get the honor and the blessing to shepherd their heart and to disciple them. I'm still in the thick of it with Nora, our 8-year-old, but our older 3 kids, I've kind of got some of the blessing of seeing them kind of some of the hard days of discipline pay off. As I was preparing for this talk, I was driving in the car with Owen, our 18-year-old, and I was hoping he would give me, just kind of help me brainstorm. And so I asked him, hey, Owen, like, what do you remember about when I disciplined you? Like, back when you were little, when you were a toddler, elementary, like, what do you remember? Do you remember, like, the long talks, the spankings? He thought for a little bit, and he's like, Mom, I don't really remember anything. I'm like, well, Owen, like, we had numerous, remember on the end of your bed, we would sit and talk. Remember in the bathroom where we would have some more talks and maybe some spanks. Like, you got a lot of spankings, don't you remember? And he seriously was like, I honestly don't remember. That was kind of like mind-boggling to me. And I asked him, I was like, well, are you glad I disciplined you if you don't really remember it? And he said, yeah, because I think I turned out pretty good. And I was like, okay, well, good. But it reminded me in that moment that so much of my parenting was a mess up. I didn't do it perfectly. I messed up a lot. But I covered my parenting and my discipline in prayer, in love, and grace. And I like to think that that's now what my kids are remembering. And so as we talk today, I want you to remember this truth, that by God's grace, the way that you make your child feel during discipline is ultimately going to be what they remember, not the method that you use to discipline them. And that is only by God's grace. So may our hearts be towards helping our children and guiding them as they're dealing with their sin nature, and we get the privilege to come alongside and encourage them and help them. So last week Carrie spoke, and she talked about 4 methods of correction to have in our toolboxes. She talked about time in, and also sometimes that can also be time out. She talked about extinction, which was purposefully ignoring a behavior. She talked about spanking and about rewards. And I hope y'all had some good time in your small group to discuss those. I love how she used the idea of this toolbox, that we have options of correction to use, because you're not going to find that one tool works in every situation for every kid and every offense. You're gonna need some options. And remember, you will not always do it right. I didn't do it right. Your mentor moms did not do it right. But God's grace is sufficient. And it gives you the chance to apologize, to ask your kids for forgiveness, ask them for grace, and do not live in guilt and shame, but move on and be the best mom that you can be. So today we're gonna add 2 more tools to our toolbox. We get to talk about natural consequences and logical consequences. So using natural and logical consequences is very biblical, and it's all over in Scripture where we see that the choices we make bring certain results. Galatians 6:7 says that we should not be deceived, for God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that he will also reap. So here's the definition for natural consequences. Natural consequences simply means that the parent stays out of the way and lets nature run its course in a safe way. There's a built-in consequence that's naturally going to happen without you as the parent having to intervene. So staying out of the way doesn't mean this lazy, I'm not gonna do anything, but it's purposeful. It's an intentional choice to let the child's actions fall on the child and then let them feel some ownership with it and let nature play out. So kind of the age-old example might be one that you either experienced as a child or you've already experienced with your children, but when your child is fighting you on wearing a coat and it's cold outside and you know they need a jacket so they don't get cold, but the natural consequence is that you let the child make the decision after some discussion and they choose to not wear their coat. And it's not really dangerous. They're gonna be okay, just a little chilly and uncomfortable. And then you let nature teach the consequence. I have in my home something we've been working on for about 17, 18 years with my children. And it is a natural consequence that happens at least once, maybe twice a week. And it's called laundry day. Now, I've been working with my kids since they were toddlers on we take our dirty clothes and we put it in the hamper. It is not hard. You can do it. If you put your your dirty clothes in the hamper, they will magically come out clean and folded. But if you do not put them in the hamper, they will stay on your floor and stay dirty. It's not a hard concept, but still, every week, there are dirty clothes on the floor. I then, as the parent, have to make the conscious, is it hard for me to pick up the clothes? No. But if I always pick up the clothes, they don't ever learn the responsibility of laundry. And so I have to make that conscious effort to not pick up their clothes and to let them then have the natural consequence of dirty clothes. And yes, there have been times when certain uniforms did not get washed because they were not in the laundry hamper, and they had to wear dirty clothes. It was totally safe and fine. They didn't love it, but it was the natural consequence. I said this a lot, and I still am saying it with my 8-year-old, you can do hard things, like put your clothes in the hamper. I actually love when a natural consequence presents itself, a situation. It's one of the kind of easiest forms of correction once you notice that it's an opportunity. There are so many perks. One of the perks is that life teaches the lesson, and you as the parent don't really have to add any punishment to it. So you just let the situation unfold safely, and you only step in if the consequence is either too dangerous, too harsh, or is gonna have some sort of long-term damage. Obviously, we're not gonna let our kids play in the street to teach them a lesson about the danger of cars. Okay, we're talking about safe situations here, okay? Another reason that I love natural consequences is that it's a time for you to get to come alongside your child with compassion. You get to be on their team. It's a chance to kind of love on your kid and say, oh man, I'm sorry that you chose not to bring your coat. That's such a bummer. I'm so sorry you're cold. Man, that's what happens when we don't bring our jacket. The other thing is that a perk of natural consequences is that you get to let your child kind of feel the weight of their choice. So it's a good chance to kind of remind them that they made that decision to not bring the jacket, and therefore they're reaping the consequence of that decision. This is not the time to say, see, I told you so, mom knows best, or I knew this would happen. No, just say, oh man, Johnny, you made that decision. I bet next time you'll make a better decision so you'll stay warm. It's just an easy, kind of natural way to deal with a situation. So look for times when you can use natural correction. Natural consequences. Logical consequences are similar, except it kind of takes it to the next step. The consequence for logical consequences, the consequence is built in by the parent, and the parent intervenes and structures a plan of consequence that is not naturally present, but still very logical for the situation. So let me say that again. The parent intervenes and structures a plan of consequence that's not naturally present, but very logical for the situation. It's obviously intended to discourage the child from repeating a bad behavior and help them learn responsibility. So I have very many examples of this in my life. But I'm gonna set this up for you. My Nora was a mess maker. This happened when she was 2. She had been told numerous times not to throw rocks, not to mess with the rocks, not to play with the rocks, not to pile the rocks up, not to put the rocks on the front porch. So imagine my surprise when I opened the front door one day and there were rocks all over the front porch. This had been a constant struggle. She knew not to play with the rocks. She was disobeying. And she kind of was like, she knew it. You could tell by her face. And I was so mad because this was something we had been working on over and over and over again. And so I like to remember that I calmly, I'm not sure about that part. I know there was probably some teeth gritting in the back of my mouth, but I looked at her and I said, let's go get the broom. You're gonna have to sweep the rocks off. And here's the video of what happened after that. So there she is, sweeping the rocks. She's crying. She was actually the that kind of noise. And I share this video for several reasons. Obviously, when you make a mess like that, it is a very logical consequence for you to then have to clean up your mess. Trust me, this wasn't the first or the last time she had to clean up her messes. So it's been a trait that has served her well in her future years. But she's 2. Was she capable of sweeping the porch? She actually was. She was capable. Was it doable for her? Yes. Did she do it perfectly? She did not, but that was okay. She was still learning. And was she gonna think twice the next time that she wanted to pile all those rocks? Don't use rocks in your landscaping, by the way. But will she think twice next time? Absolutely. And I stayed with her the whole time. I was right there. At one point in the video, I said, "You're doing a good job." So I didn't just leave her. She needed me to keep encouraging her. But I also have found that when I take a little picture or a little video of said mess, it helps me diffuse my anger in a moment of like, oh, maybe one day this will be funny. So there is that sweet video of Nora. In our small group time, I don't know exactly what y'all's looks like, but in our small group time, we take all these tools in our toolbox, and then it's like, what does this look like actually in real life? What does this look like played out? And so this next little segment, I actually do not want you to write down everything you're gonna see on the screen. Do not write it down. I want you to take maybe 1 or 2 things that stick out in your mind and apply 1 or 2 things. This whole list is not for this next week, okay? But just start the brainstorming process of what does it look like to implement either natural or logical consequences. So do not write them all down. The first thing, and my mentor, when I was young, said this to me all the time. I think this was her number 1 parenting tip. But she would say, "Marla, pray and use your head." So maybe that's where you need to start today. Just pray. God created your child, and God created you to be his or her mother. He has equipped you. And so talk to him. If you're struggling in a situation, pray and use your head. Secondly, talk through your husband or somebody who is helping parent your kids if you're not married. God has gifted you a helpmate. So what a great resource. And chances are, if you're like Nate and I, you and your husband are maybe a little opposite, so you're gonna bring different ideas to the table about how to implement correction with your children. And so tap into that. Get his thoughts on helping discipline your kids. Third, get creative. Sometimes you have to think a little outside of the box. We had a child who struggled with slamming the door, especially when he was being disciplined. So there are 3 hinges that you can just pop, pop, pop. Door comes off. We told him when he could learn how to shut his door correctly, that he could have his door back. Well, he learned real quick because he liked his alone time and his privacy. So he learned real quick that he liked a door and he could learn how to shut that door appropriately. So get creative. Also, consider who will be paying the price when you decide to implement a logical consequence. This is key. Do not punish yourself. Do not punish your husband. Do not punish a grandparent. It would have been unfair if Grammy was coming to watch Nora and I said, "Grammy, you need to make Nora sweep off the porch. She put all these rocks on, but I gotta go." Think some of that through before you implement a correction. This next step takes so much adulting like so much adulting. Keep your tone calm, a matter of fact, and not angry. This takes so much self-control. Y'all know, your moms. I don't have to reiterate that. Be consistent and follow through. The first time you don't follow through, your child knows, oh, mom doesn't really mean it. So follow through. Stay with your child. Encourage them. Don't leave them when they're cleaning up a mess. Encourage them and stay with them. I did not step in when Nora was crying. It wasn't like, oh, I guess this is too hard. No, I just stayed with her and encouraged her, and she kept sweeping. Next is show faith in your child's ability to do better next time. This is such an easy one to like encourage, but it's so hard in the moment. But have compassion towards your child. They're dealing with a sin nature. Just encourage them. And you are gonna find that there's this constant state of training and teaching and correction. If you're not in one, you're in the other. So that cycle is gonna continue. And just keep encouraging them. I need this reminder a lot, even still with teenagers, but we get the opportunity to point our kids to Jesus. In the middle of discipline, that can be such an encouragement, reminding them that God is our helper, that He is with us. Don't be shy about pulling out a verse every now and then. There's actually a great resource by Ginger Plowman called Wise Words for Moms. I actually used it when my kids were little. It's a little chart, and it has like things that a kid might be working on, like no hitting or whatever, and then it'll have a verse that goes with it. When my kids would be struggling with an attitude or having rude words come out to their siblings, then I would read them Ephesians 4:29 and just say, no, let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, but only what is pleasing. And reminding them that God's way is the best way. And then always look for ways to practice your tools in your toolbox at home. Home is the easiest, safest place to kind of drill in those things. And so if you know that maybe when you're out and about that your child's struggling, like listening to your voice and hearing you, like I would practice that at home. We did this, I just made it into a little game. Wasn't a very fun game, but I would say, hey, Owen, okay, I want you to go over there. And when I say your name, I want you to run to me and touch me on the elbow. And so I'd say, Owen, Owen, and he'd come running, touch me on the elbow, and then I'd respond to him, oh, you did awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go into another room, and let's see if you can hear me then. And we would practice his response, because I knew that when we were at the playground or a play date or the grocery store, if I said, Owen, I knew I wanted him to hear my voice and come to me with respect. And so we would just practice that at home. Another thing that we would do, and a tip would be to find ways to drill in what you're working in. So not just practice it, but just drill it in. Look for books that kind of, if you're working on hitting, like Hands Aren't for Hitting, there's books that kind of go along with that. One thing I did, and you can ask my kids about our bedtime stories, but we had some characters named Georgie and Porgy. And Georgie and Porgy would go on these grand adventures. And if I was working on, cleaning up our messes or our laundry or whatever with them during the day, well, at night when we were telling the bedtime story, Georgie and Porgy would have this huge struggle, and they would forget to clean up, or they would leave their bike out, and then it would get rusty, and then they would have this consequence. And so the next day, when it was time to clean up, I'd say, hey, remember what happened to Georgie? And so it was this like non-offensive way to kind of keep drilling in things that I was already working with them. And And then I think one thing for me that started to give me confidence was just kind of coming up with a script in my mind of how I was going to implement these consequences. So when you have some sort of script, it gives you want the child to understand, like, what did I do wrong? How do I make this right, etc. And so it gives them confidence to kind of know what you're talking about, but it also gives you a calmness. And so a great idea would just be like first to name the behavior calmly, again, going back to that calm tone, matter of fact, and without judgment. So, Johnny, I see you left your bike in the driveway. And then next, you're gonna state the problem and why it matters. So next time, when a bike gets left out, it can possibly rust or it might get stolen. Dad might accidentally back out on it. So you just wanna kind of state the problem so they know why it's not good to leave their bike out. And then explain the consequence. Make sure it's a consequence that's connected with the behavior. Johnny, since your bike wasn't put away, we're gonna have to put it in the garage for the evening. Maybe you can try again tomorrow. And then offer a chance to make it right. Next time, if you put your bike away when I ask, then you'll be able to ride it whenever you want or whatever is appropriate for your situation. So these are just some tips. Again, you won't do it perfectly. That is not the goal here. The goal is to live by God's grace and to glorify God as you shepherd your child's heart. You are an amazing mom. I know you want to be the best mom you can be because you're here and you're working hard. Hebrews 12:11 tells us that for a moment, all discipline seems painful. Can I get an amen? Rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to all those who have been trained by it. And so I just hope today you feel encouraged as you make disciples. I want to close with a prayer that I found. It's from Every Moment Holy. And just a reminder that even in the discipline that can be our spiritual act of worship to the Lord. Oh, Father, I abide in the beautiful truth that I can come to you expectantly, knowing that you will hear me and answer me. You bend to listen to my pleas for help and comfort and guidance and strength. You carry me always. You never tire of it. And I depend upon your dependability to comfort and hold me. And yet, sometimes the voices in my own children becoming so continuous and exhausting and overwhelming, I am so easily put out and wearied by the whining, tugging, grabbing, and crying to be continually held and attended to. In my humanity, I am confronted with my many limitations. I am so easily given to selfishness, exhaustion, tedium, frustration, and irritation. My back aches and my neck and shoulders are aflame from hoisting small children up again and again and balancing them on my hip while trying to accomplish the tasks for the day. How easily my sin can twist the joyful blessing of holding a child into drudgery and a wearisome task. Is this not what I prayed for, Lord, when I asked you to fill my arms with children? I am so like the Israelites who complained, though you rescued them from their enemies, who complained, though you rained manna from heaven and provided water from a rock. Yet you never tire of coming to the aid of your children. Father, give me the capacity I need to respond lovingly to my children who cry out to be picked up and held again and again. Remind me of the blessed truth that while I hold my little ones, you hold me. Let me display to them what it looks like to joyfully lay down one's life for another. Help me to show them that while I fail them at times, you will never fail them, and you will always hold us fast. Amen.